I'm Luca Giliberti, contributing writer at Gold Derby, joined today by Emmy winner Evan Peters, who stars as Detective Colin Zabel on HBO's Mare of Easttown. So, Evan, I know that your preparation for this role consisted of working with a dialect coach, communicating with the person Mare is based on, doing ride-alongs, and more. Could you talk about the process of marinating Brad Inglesby's writing in all this external research you had conducted, and then really discovering Zabel in the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I really tried to me, the scariest scenes were the detective scenes because I'm not a detective. So I had to work really hard to try to figure out how they moved, how they operated, what they thought about. I read this book, Homicide and Death Investigation by Vernon Jacobert, and I tried to read that every day, which, by the way, you're going to need a book cover if you take that on the plane. And it was tough. It was really hard to immerse yourself in that every day. Yeah, so I read that a lot to try to figure out what that was like and what that would do to me. And I watched a lot of First 48, which, when I watched it, I was surprised at how everything, it was very serious, but also they were really working together as a team, and they were friendly with each other and really trying to have the win. And I think when I saw that sort of clicked for me with Mare, and you realize just how much you're working together and just how close you can get and how much you care about the person you're working with. And I think for me, and what Colin was going through, at that time in my life, it was just, I was really stuck, and Colin was stuck and felt very insecure and a lot of imposter syndrome. And so I felt Colin was going through that as well. And, when you look at somebody like Kate Winslet, who is one of the best actresses, if not the best actress of our time, of all time, maybe. And you start to go, well, what is it? What is she doing? What is it about her that works so well? And I want to know her process and how she does all of this, and how she behaves on set. And she was so amazing and such a leader and so confident, yet humble and willing to collaborate. And so I tried to use that for Colin and sort of what he was going through, and hopefully she would, Mare, pull him out of this funk of this imposter syndrome, and him lying about finding this evidence and sort of taking the case as his own. So it was sort of the light at the end of the tunnel for both of us, really, and to try to figure out how to do this process authentically and very grounded and very real. And that was sort of how I found the way into this I don't want to call it a love affair, but it weren't like hearts coming off of Mare's head, but it was sort of there had to be an attraction there and an admiration and a respect and wanting to get to know her more than just a friend and a partner trying to solve this case. So I think, and Kate's beautiful and Mare's beautiful, and it wasn't hard to do that part. So I with the admiration and respect came that, which sort of led into that the date night scene and sort of the I guess the climax of the arc. So yeah, that was kind of how I married that. That was a very long answer. I'm sorry.
No, it was great. And we'll certainly touch on some of those things a bit later, specifically the admiration aspect. But while you were working on this show, you actually got into the habit of writing more and making notes on your scripts, in part inspired by Kate. Did this type of routine writing just help you get into character more, or did it help you unlock character details that you maybe hadn't discovered before?
I think it was both. I mean, I've always sort of written my script by the end of shooting looks totally insane. I look completely manic and it's illegible and just crazy talk. I really should refine it and erase some of this stuff, but I'm too scared to erase it. I don't want to get rid of all the ideas, but I don't know. I write in the script. I write sort of, I improvise a little, and then I sort of write down some of those improvisations. In the mornings, I found that I can type faster than I write. So I find in the morning I try to wake up and sort of get to where I'm at as a person, and so I write about that a lot, sort of journaling, I guess, and then sort of relating that to the character and what the character is going through, and do a lot of dream work as well, where I write down my dreams, and then you find out sort of where and how you can use those in the story, and you find out where you're at in your life, and it's really a magical kind of experience when you're having a dream that relates so closely to the character, and it just sends you over the edge into something, sound cheesy, but sort of spiritual, and you sort of change yourself along with the role, and you hope to grow with the role and the project. So it really is helpful, and you can change a lot about your life and learn a lot about yourself. So I tended to do that every morning along with the dialect. You start to write with a dialect in your head a little bit, but it is it's a very helpful experience to be writing like that. I'm going to be doing that probably for the rest of my career. I love it.
That's great. And that's also a perfect segue to the next question, because Brad and your director, Craig Zobel, were very open to you adding more vulnerability to the Zabel that was initially on the page. So how did you decide when to add some of this vulnerability and at the same time ensure that it remained authentic and didn't border on goofiness, for example?
Yeah, that was tough.
I can imagine.
Yeah, as a tightrope. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I sort of found that a little in the first 48. You see a lot of detectives on TV, and they're kind of hard and stuff like that. And I initially walked into it, and I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know. And I wanted to sort of 180 it and see if we couldn't add a little bit more of the normal guy sort of thrown into this situation, these normal people that are trying to solve these cases that sometimes are just so over your head, and especially me. So I wanted to add that in there. And initially he was, shooting pool, and he was kind of a pool shark, and he was this kind of badass, a little bit kind of guy. And I was like, I don't know if I would feel more heartbroken if a guy who was sort of living with his mother and sort of vulnerable and wanted to ask Mare out on a date but couldn't quite do it, and then sort of finally gets the win of seeing those Winston cigarettes. He's sort of, oh, that's the guy. That's kind of, and then you get Wayne Potts, and it sort of it comes into this sort of feeling that he's sort of come into his own and is now kind of a man, and is sort of able to live with the vulnerability, but be confident, and sort of move forward with his life. And then it's so horribly and tragically taken like that it just feels very real and sad. And so I wanted to do more of that. But what was the initial question again? It was
that was perfect. If, where you peppered it in, where you decided to pepper it in, and how you ensured that it didn't border on goofiness, that it stayed authentic.
Right. That was that was kind of sort of, I felt like the detective stuff had to be serious, but I think, and not, fumbling pasta on your pants, you know what I mean? So it's like, but when you're in the real life stuff you sort of let down that guard, and that sort of OCD, really focused, hyper obsessed on a case, when you sort of let that down, if you've only been focusing on that thing, you're maybe a little socially awkward or sort of fumbling a little bit. And I don't know, I thought it would be fun, but Craig was amazing, and Brad, and they both let me improvise and play around with some lines and some things like that to sort of help bring some levity into the very serious, tragic aspect of this case. And Craig was very playful and came up with some ideas, and I would do something and he would go, oh yeah, I like that, and then I would switch it up, and he'd say, no, go back and do that. But it was just a very that was one of the joys really of working with Craig, is that he was so playful, and really allowed me to play around with that stuff. And that was the other thing too, is that Kate is so freaking good and so grounded, that, I think, yeah, you can fumble, you can do some goofy stuff, some funny stuff, but I think she really brings it back into this solid, real environment that you can't really, you can't be going too big in that area just because she's so good at her job. And Kate did some hilarious stuff too. I mean, I love the bite of the thing that was too fancy, and then she put it in the couch, and then Craig did like an amazing close up right on the napkin going in the couch. So yeah, it was a fun show that way, where it bounced back and forth.
Yeah. There's certainly a lot of comedy in the show, and that's why, or levity, and that's certainly why it works. And that, what you were talking about, takes us straight to the bar scene in episode 3, in which Mare and a drunken Zabel get very honest about their feelings. And it's one of the first times we see Zabel completely unmasked in a way. So talk about the difficulty of delivering something that is so honest, but modulating it in a way so that it's believable in this moment of complete inebriation.
Gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm always sort of, I guess that's the kind of projects that I like to watch. I think I really, because that's how real life is. I find that, all these, sort of sad, heavy things that happen in life are intermixed with comedy and levity and awkwardness, and, you can't help but laugh. And, I know my brother is a very funny drunk, and he is a little like that. We're sort of similar in that, we are just kind of silly and goofy and joke around a lot, as I think a lot of people are when they drink. But however, booze does make you sort of depressed and sad. So, it's in those moments that really, I mean, you can be so up and down with having the best night of your life, and then one thing happens and it just goes right down. But again, that's the kind of, I love shows like that where you're watching it, and it's such it just, I don't know, there's something about it that really feels a little more real to me, and not so heavy. So yeah, I wanted to play around with that, and I did a lot of writing on that. I absolutely loved that scene. I loved the way it was written. I thought the way Brad wrote it was so real, and there was such an opportunity to show a side of Zabel that we hadn't seen yet. And I talked with Craig, and we were like, I think he should be absolutely shit canned here, and just be so drunk that you're like, what is going on with this guy? Something's up with Zabel. I don't know what, but hopefully we'll figure it out. And so that was an opportunity to sort of have a lot of fun with that, and go big with it in a sense, but then sort of pull it in and show, as it was written, is this sort of sad guy who's in this weird place, where he doesn't quite know what he's going to do, and he's stuck, and he's at his mom's, and his wife dumped him, and a fiance, almost wife. So yeah, it was a fun scene, and we got to improvise, and thank God Kate's on board with that, and just so giving as an actress, and it was really fun to shoot that. Very strange to shoot it at 10 a.m.
Right.
but it was still a fun scene to shoot.
Yeah, and it turned out very well. So
Thank you.
I think everything worked out. And what I really love is that we also get these interactions between Zabel and his mother, who I think, while very proud of her son, does remind him of where he is in his life now versus where he thought he'd be. And so how was it for you to have this mother-son dynamic that allowed you to display more visibly some of Zabel's self-doubt and despondency that we see peppered in throughout the season?
I think it was helpful. I think it really, they were hard scenes to shoot because we didn't quite know what level, to go with it. And we sort of played around with, how sort of emotionally or in this stage of his life, how stunted he was. I think that he really, and for me, it was just a way to show this overbearing mother, that you're constantly trying to live up to and to please and to make happy. And it explains a little bit why he took the evidence as his own for his win. I always sort of thought, well, his fiance dumped him. He's sort of stuck. His mom wants him to move out and be this really successful guy and remarry. And, he just needs a win so bad, that he takes it. And I think there's something there too with Mare, with sort of, Mare is his mom is this sort of overbearing presence of him, making him do things that don't feel quite authentic. And Mare is this sort of, despite what the rules say, is going to follow her gut and go down a path that feels right to her. And that to me was, again, a beacon of light, and like, okay, there is no right or wrong way to do it, really. You need to just follow your gut if you're, a good person, and follow that route, and things will work out. So I think she's that beacon of light that sort of gets him away from his mother, and hopefully not mom isn't making him feel like he needs to date Mare, to be that woman. But I feel like he genuinely likes Mare, and thinks that she's kind of incredible.
Absolutely. And of course, he's completely different opposite Mare, as you were already describing, whom he absolutely reveres as both a detective and a person. And admiration is a very difficult emotion to play, whether you're the one admiring or the one being admired. So talk about establishing with Kate this initial energy between Mare and Zabel, and then step by step creating this intimacy between them.
Yeah, that was another very hard thing to track. Yeah, so we block shot it, and it was there were only a finite amount of scenes where we're together and working on a case, and especially, I think, we all sort of decided that the scene where we find the bullet was kind of the turning point, and we sort of had to be careful, because we didn't want it to be like hearts coming off of her head, but there had to be some sort of attraction there. And obviously she's beautiful, but it has to be more than that. And so I think it was, there's contention at first, and then we sort of get on the same page, and I start to see how she's working, and she is pretty brilliant. And then excuse me, the bullet thing happens, where she wants me to step out on a limb for her, and I'm a little bit nervous to do that, because I'm trying to do everything right on this case, and I sort of take that risk, because I see that maybe she's kind of this brilliant detective that I've been looking for to try to help me be a better detective. And so I think that I do that, and then of course we find the bullet, and she was right, and that moment to me when we find the bullet was an interesting one. And I sort of referenced the first 48, when they did find a piece of evidence. It was a huge win. It's like it's a tragic situation, what's going on, but for them personally in their job, it's a massive win, and it just brings them one step closer to solving the case. And I think that in that moment, it's oh my God, she's really sort of brilliant, and I need to listen to her more, and this could be really good, and we're solving the case. So it sort of transitions at that point into wanting to sort of get to know her a little bit better. And of course, it's ripped right out from underneath him when Mare gets suspended. So, but yeah, so there was sort of an up and down with that, but that was sort of the arc of that. And by that time, he's interested in her more than a friend, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I, of course, have to mention that you won your first Emmy last year for the show for Mare of Easttown, which was also your career first nomination. So take me back to that evening, hearing your name called, then swerving Julianne Nicholson's husband to hug your mother, and then swearing multiple times on your way to the stage.
Yeah, sheer terror, sheer stage fright terror. Oh my God, I have to go up there. And Jonathan, we were having such a great night, and I was like, oh man. But then I was like, no, my mom. I took my mom. I have to hug my mom. She literally moved out here when I was 15 to be an actor. Like, she is the reason that I'm out here. So I have to hug her first. And then by that time, I was like, oh my God, I'm running out of time. So I was like, and I have to focus and figure out what I'm gonna say. So it was sheer terror. I think Jonathan said my face turned white as a sheet. And it was a very, very surreal, terrifying experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one can imagine. And of course, it was also the shout out for Kate Winslet in the speech. Which
truth is, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if it wasn't for Kate Winslet. None of this would have happened if I wasn't able to, if she wasn't in the show and I wasn't able to work with her. So it's sort of, I owe everything to her, honestly.
And that fits because, on a final note, the awards didn't stop there. You've also received nominations from the Critics' Choice and Screen Actors Guild Awards. And while you were previously nominated at Critics' Choice for American Horror Story Cult, this is your first SAG nomination. What does this recognition, especially from your peers, mean to you, especially as a bookend to this entire experience of working on Mare?
Yeah, honestly, it's so surreal, and it really is. Actors I love actors, and it's just incredible to be recognized for this performance. I still can't even believe it, and the heavyweights that I've been nominated with, I think this is insane. I don't know what's going on right now, but so yeah, it's really is it's an incredible moment, and I really I can't thank the Screen Actors Guild enough. It really just feels incredible to be nominated, and yeah, it's a surreal experience for sure.
Yeah, but it's very well deserved. And
Thank you.
Everyone watching out there, please make sure to subscribe to Gold Derby and keep up to date with us throughout this season. Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us again. It was really great. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.